The torches burned low in the great hall of Jerusalem, their smoke curling upward toward cedar beams still fragrant with resin, still new enough to remember the forests of Lebanon. The city itself was new in a way, not new in stone, for Jerusalem had stood for generations, but new in spirit, new in weight. A young king sat on a throne built for a giant of a man, and the shadow of that giant fell long across everything. His name was Solomon. He was the son of David, shepherd, warrior, poet, the man after God's own heart. And Solomon loved his father deeply. But David was gone now, buried in the city that bore his name, and the crown that rested on Solomon's head felt heavier than gold ought to feel. He was young. Some accounts say he may have been as young as 12, others suggest closer to 20, but whatever the number, he was unmistakably, achingly young for what was being asked of him. 1,000,000 souls or more looked to him for justice, for protection, for wisdom. The nation of Israel had never been so unified, never so full of possibility. The surrounding kingdoms watched with cautious eyes. Trade routes hummed. There was peace, a rare and fragile peace, like the first light of morning before the world remembers its trouble. And Solomon walked into that morning carrying a question he could not answer. Not yet. Whether he was enough. Whether anyone could be. There was a place called Gibeon, a high place northwest of Jerusalem, where a great altar stood on a hill. In the early days of Solomon's reign, before the temple his father had dreamed of was yet built, the people still offered sacrifices at these high places, and Gibeon was the greatest of them. Solomon went there. He brought 1,000 burnt offerings, 1,000, and laid them on the altar, and the smoke rose from that hilltop in thick, holy columns against the wide blue sky. And that night, God came to him in a dream. Imagine it, the darkness of sleep, the way a dream sometimes feels more real than waking, more substantial, as if the ordinary world is the thin thing, and this is the solid one. And in that dream, a voice like the sound of many waters, like wine through the highest branches. Asterisk, ask what I shall give you. Asterisk, for words, simple words. And yet, what a weight they carried. Ask, whatever you want. Solomon could have heard that and trembled with greed, the way power can so quickly reshape a person. He could have asked for long life, and no one who has lain awake afraid of their own mortality would blame him. He could have asked for the wealth that was already beginning to pour into Israel. He could have asked for rivers of it, mountains of it, enough to make every neighboring king feel small. He could have asked for the defeat of his enemies. His father David had enemies, and Solomon had inherited some of them along with the throne. He could have asked for safety, for security, for walls that never fell. But before Solomon asked for anything, he remembered. He remembered David. He spoke of his father in his prayer with tenderness. Asterisk, you showed great and steadfast love to your servant David my father, because he walked before you in faithfulness, in righteousness, and in uprightness of heart toward you. Asterisk, and then, with a humility that is almost startling in a man who holds absolute power, he said, asterisk, I am but a little child. I do not know how to go out or come in. Asterisk, a little child. The king of Israel, calling himself a little child. And maybe that is the most honest thing a young man has ever said about power, that he did not know how to carry it, that the weight of it overwhelmed him, that before this vast people, this great people, too many to be numbered or counted, he stood and felt, in the deepest part of himself, small. And in that smallness, in that honest, undefended smallness, he made his request. Asterisk, give your servant therefore an understanding heart to govern your people, that I may discern between good and evil. Asterisk, an understanding heart, not a brilliant mind, though he wanted wisdom. An understanding heart. The word in Hebrew is lev shomeah, a listening heart, a heart that hears. He wanted to feel the weight of another person's pain and know what it required. He wanted to hold two competing truths and find the one that was more true. He wanted to be, not powerful over his people, but genuinely present with them. And he knew in the dream, and he knew when he woke, that this was not something a man could manufacture in himself. It had to be given. And God gave it. The response in that dream was warm, almost delighted, as if the question itself pleased the giver more than any offering smoke rising from any hilltop altar. Because you have asked this, and have not asked for yourself long life or riches or the life of your enemies, but have asked for yourself understanding to discern what is right. Behold, I now do according to your word. And then beyond that, I give you also what you have not asked, both riches and honor, so that no other king shall compare with you all your days. Solomon woke from the dream in Gibeon. The fire had burned down to coals. The stars were still out. And something in him was different, not louder, not bolder, not puffed up, but quieter, settled, like a lake after a wind passes. He returned to Jerusalem and stood before the Ark of the Covenant and offered more offerings, peace offerings, and made a feast for all his servants. A celebration not of himself, but of what he had received. And then came the test. Because God rarely gives gifts in theory without sending the moment that makes them real. 2 women came before the king, both of them mothers, both of them heartbroken, both of them claiming the same living child, and one of them, though she did not know it yet, telling the truth. Their story was desperate, tangled, impossible to unravel by ordinary means. No witnesses, no documents, just grief and love and accusation, each one looking the king in the eye. And Solomon asked for a sword. The room must have gone very still. A blade brought out, a child held above it. And Solomon said, divide the living child in 2. Give half to one and half to the other. It was not cruelty. It was a question asked in the language that only the heart could answer. And the true mother's heart answered first. Give her the living child, and by no means put him to death. Give him away. Keep him alive even if it costs me everything. And the whole court heard it, and Solomon heard it, and the child went home safe in his mother's arms. When the people of Israel heard what had happened, Scripture says they stood in awe of the king. They saw that the wisdom of God was in him. Not just intelligence, not cleverness, but something deeper, the ability to see into the hidden places of another person's love. There is something almost unbearably moving about this story when you sit with it quietly. Here was a young man given the rarest invitation in Scripture. Ask for anything, and he chose the one thing that would help him serve someone else. He could have grasped. He could have hoarded. Instead, he opened his hands and asked for the capacity to understand, to hear, to see past the surface of things into the tender truth underneath. And that is what this story keeps whispering across the centuries. That wisdom is not the same thing as knowledge. That strength is not the same thing as force. That the most powerful thing a person can do sometimes is say, honestly, before God and the world, I am small. I do not know how to carry this. Help me see clearly. Solomon asked for the right thing. And God, who knows every longing of every human heart, recognized it. The way you recognize something you have always hoped someone would finally ask for. The listening heart, the ancients called it, and the world has been searching for one ever since.